accident recovery site.
Welcome back and watch our last episode on Nepal trip. So, why Gurkha? That was a question posed by many of the viewers after watching our previous episodes. Truly speaking, there are not many four-wheel drive vehicles in the affordable range in India. An year back, I think I had a test drive of the new Mahindra Thar. It was good in terms of road presence, fit and finish, but it was not appealing as I felt it was only good for two people kind of trips because the access to the back seat was difficult for the adults. So I opted out from owning a Thar. Other models like Fortuner or Endure were beyond my affordability. Then came the announcement of Force Gurkha. Even though I was followed up on this development of this vehicle for the last 10 years, I was not very keen on it because of the fit and finish of the previous versions, and I had never ever considered owning one. But I had a good amount of appreciation for this vehicle, probably because it was the only affordable hardtop 4x4 available with the front and back differential locks in India, and also the G-Wagon lineage, more trusted engine and gearbox, problem-free running of the engine, and of course the large number of commercial vehicles from Force Motors on the road made me develop some interest in the BS6 model as soon as it was launched. So I was keen on taking a test drive, and when I contacted Force Motors, I was given an option to pay the advance amount and book the vehicle with an assurance to return back the money in case I am not happy with it after the test drive. So I immediately paid the booking advance and waited eagerly for the test drive. I then started following up regularly with the company and the Chennai dealer for the arrival of the vehicle. I was in fact forcing Force Motors when I started seeing delivery of this Gurkha in other states. I had an overlanding trip planned to Nepal in November, and I was very keen on going in the all-new Gurkha. Finally, when the Chennai dealer informed me about the arrival of the Gurkha, I was excited and immediately took the test drive. I was quite happy with the inside space and the overall look and road presence of the vehicle. The other aspects like the long window for the rear seats, accessibility to the rear seats through the back door, etc. Really attracted me. I also noticed that Gurkha, in spite of being a tall vehicle, the ground clearance in the front axle area was compromised due to the odd shape of its lower arm. I had also expressed my concern to the dealer and was wondering how the company had failed to create a decent ground clearance for such a vehicle. But I decided to overlook this drawback as I wouldn't be doing such difficult off-road trips.
ये जोरी क्या करना अभी थोड़ा लूज करना है ये वाला जोरी थोड़ा लूज करना है ना क्या हुआ
Then I took my family and they were also happy with Gurkha. So we decided to go ahead with our decision to take up Gurkha. So I became the first Gurkha customer in Chennai. I got it by the third week of November, and I had my Nepal trip planned for the next week along with three of my friends. Since the vehicle had already traveled around 1800 kilometers from the factory to the dealer by road, I thought any corrections or initial glitches of the new vehicle would have been taken care of by the dealer, and I was confident of doing the Nepal trip in the new Gurkha.
हाँ
We started our journey on 27th of November from Chennai, and the day one we did about 1000 plus kilometers to reach Nagpur.
हाँ ये ऐसी थोड़ा लूज करना पड़ेगा वो ग्रीन वाला
All of us took turns at the steering, and we were happy with the soft clutch, smooth gear change, powerful AC, and the fantastic view through the long window, thus making our overlanding trip very comfortable. Since I had some accessories like the roof rack and some inner bags, loading our luggage was also convenient.
हाँ 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 घुमा व्हील घुमा
By the third day, we reached Nepal. We went to Lumpini, Pokhara, and then to Jomsom and Muktinath.
वो पत्थर डालना
In
पड़ेगा
the Jomsom route, we started facing the drawbacks of this vehicle.
थोड़ा पत्थर डालना पड़ेगा टायर लॉक हो गया
The odd-shaped lower arm reduced the ground clearance pathetically. Even the small rocks were brushing on the lower arm, and so we had to be very careful on the route, and we removed the stones on the way
पूरा आदमी उड़ना पड़ेगा
and had the hard realization that this vehicle is not good for a rocky terrain.
वो लाल वाला जो जोरी का एक मिनट रुको जोरी का कुछ हुआ एक मिनट रुको
In places where other vehicles like Bolero, Sumo, or even your Maruti Alto could navigate easily, we had to ensure that the rocks were removed so that we do not abuse the vehicle in any manner. So completed the drive with utmost care, and the rest of the places like Kathmandu, we did cross some bad stretches, but as they were not rocky, the drive was fine.
ये रस्सी थोड़ा टाइट करो भाई साहब ये रस्सी थोड़ा टाइट करो हाँ लॉक करे ग्रीन वाला लॉक कर दो
After completing our Nepal trip, we exited to India at the Darjeeling side. We had planned to visit Sandakphu before returning to Chennai. So, as you saw in the last episode, with the required local permits, on 12th December 2021, we drove to Sandakphu from Mane Banjang, a small village that's a base station, along with the hired Land Rover taxi.
बस
The last 3 kilometers was very bad and it was difficult to check the vehicle each time and move. We decided to leave the Gurkha and reach Sandakphu in the Land Rover.
इसलिए हमको भी थोड़ा पावर मिलता है
After visiting Sandakphu, we reached back to the place where we parked our Gurkha, and all four of us decided to return back in the same vehicle. And as most of you would have seen in the last episode, around 12 kilometers after Sandakphu, at a place where the road was fine, we were driving in the second gear with around 25 kilometers speed. All of a sudden, as we were taking a small turn to the right, the steering got tight, and instead of turning to the right, the left wheel touched a roadside storm marker and my Gurkha toppled over to the left. It rolled over for about 3 times and stopped at about 40 feet below the road level. Before we could sense what was happening, it was all over. Luckily, with the seat belts on and the firm body of the Gurkha, we escaped unhurt. But my all-new Gurkha failed me in ways I had never imagined. Now today, after 3 months, when I look back, I'm not emotionally charged, but I think maybe it was a bad bet. And I would say that there are few drawbacks in the way the BS6 vehicle rolled out in India. First of all, this vehicle has been rolled out the first batch without proper
व्हील के आगे
testing.
थोड़ा पत्थर गली घूमता है ना, हमने पहले किया उसकी तरह थोड़ा पत्थर डालना पड़ेगा.
After the incident, I got in touch with a lot of fellow owners, people who have taken the vehicle in the first lot in social media, and I came across a lot of complaints about power steering issues, including oil leakage, and the company has even done some modifications after the racing complaints. I believe the company should have proactively recalled the first batch of vehicles after these racing complaints, or at least alerted the first set of owners, to rectify it before venturing out for a long trip. I feel like Force Motors have used us like guinea pigs to test their vehicle, which is not expected of a reputed automobile company in this era.
चाय पी के जल्दी थोड़ा काम करना है. चाय पी लो, चाय पी लो.
I have about 25 years of driving experience, starting on with a 10-year-old 118 NE that had already covered about 90k kilometer when I bought in 2000. I had the vehicle for around 4 years and did many interstate travels in it with no failure or accidents. Then I moved to a 1-year-old Tata Indica, which was relatively newer and ran about 4 years with no major issues until I moved on to a 6-month-old Tata Sumo Grande. That was my longest companion. For about 8 years I used it, and I did more than 1 lakh kilometers in that vehicle. It did have some issues towards the end, but I was never stranded anywhere. As I could sense any issues that is cropping up, because we could feel it when we drive the vehicle regularly, and I take proactive measures to rectify. Then I have been using a Mahindra TUV 300 for the past 6 years and have covered around 85,000 kilometers with no issues so far. I can understand that any mechanical device is prone to fail, but there is something called fail safe, which was lacking with the Force motors. I do not know how many more people have faced such failure, but I would say that fail safe is something that these companies have to implement as a manufacturing philosophy. Anything can fail, but it should not lead to a situation where something collapses all of a sudden and your life is threatened or you end up in a major accident.
खाली व्हील घूमता. इधर पत्थर डालना है, पीछे पत्थर डालो, पत्थर डालो. हाँ, व्हील और पत्थर डालो, पीछे 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 पत्थर डालो. पकड़ो पकड़ो, सब लोग पकड़ो, सब लोग पकड़ो.
After all the initial marketing hype of G-Wagon lineage, the only vehicle with the manual diff locks, which are all good jargons to sell the vehicle to an enthusiast, all these should work well for the machine to be safe and efficient.
हो जाएगा.
Now, when I reflect on the issue that I had faced, I should say that engaging the four-wheel drive gear was very, very tough. And the differential lock, which I tried to engage a couple of times only just to understand how to use it in case of a situation demands. But it is very crude in spite of being a new vehicle. The company has not bothered to check the mechanicals of it. Even the door lock knob inside the vehicle or even the fuel tank flap were all coming apart in few days. So it feels like other than the marketing hype and the G-Wagon lineage, I don't think they have done much of testing, either of the individual parts or the vehicle as a whole. I had seen this vehicle in the Delhi Automobile Expo in the beginning of 2020, which means they had enough and more time for the testing before rolling out the vehicle into the market. I can relate this with my purchase of a Royal Enfield Himalayan in 2016, the initial batch of BS3 version. They also wanted the customer to ride and face the issues, and then they started rectifying. But even though I experienced engine seizures and few other problems, I could sense what is going wrong prior and take necessary actions. But there were not any life-threatening issues, and so I had the vehicle for 4 years. But with this Gurkha, it failed all of a sudden without giving any indication to the driver. That is what worried me most. We were lucky that the failure happened at the safest spot in this route. Had it happened 5 minutes before or later, the result would have been fatal.
बस 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 संगत ऑटो वाले दिया लगा दे पिछड़ के मोटर उठा दे डाल दे हां ओ धोने रख दे उठाना पड़ेगा
So guys, whoever is getting fascinated to buy a Gurkha, keep these points in mind. It is not the perfect vehicle for overlanding unless you do some serious modifications. Also ensure the company does all the necessary rectifications before delivery. Also do a thorough checking of all the parts before taking the vehicle for a long drive. This is a costly lesson that I have learned with this experience. Also, do not go on rocky terrains unless you do some serious modification to the lower arm so that the ground clearance is at least 200 mm or more. Curiously, if you check the Gurkha brochure, there is no single line about the ground clearance. But look at the brochures of any other compact SUVs. They would have clearly mentioned the ground clearance. All the cars that I bought in the past personally were Indian cars, and I wanted to retain the tradition of be Indian and buy Indian. But sadly, that did not work out for Force Motors. I am posting this recovery video because it was a very remote terrain with nothing easily accessible. Manebanjang is also a small village and no recovery vehicle is available there. And the Land Rover Owners Association convinced me that they would come and help in recovering the vehicle, and that's how they do it during any such mishaps, and I believed them. On day 1, we could only manage to straighten the vehicle on its wheels. On the second day, more people came along with some pickup vehicles. The Gurkha engine was running, and with its power along with the power of people and pickup vehicle power, we could only move the vehicle to almost close to the road. Right below the road, it was too steep, so we couldn't push the Gurkha up to the road. So on day 3, I had to call for 2 small cranes on typically Mahindra pickup kind of vehicle from Siliguri, which could finally bring the vehicle to the road and then tow it to the Force service center in Siliguri. But this recovery costed me another bomb, shelling about 40k for the first 2 days for people power and another 35k for the Mahindra pickup and cranes. And another lesson that I learned with this experience is that the IDV value of your car, your brand new vehicle, is almost 20% lower than the on-road price of the vehicle. I paid 16 lakhs for the vehicle and another 85,000 for the company accessories such as alloy wheel, carriers, etc. But the IDV value was only 12.9 lakhs after deducting the GST, insurance and the like. But there is an option called return to invoice, where the IDV value would be the total invoice value. Neither the dealer nor the insurance company had told us about this particular option, where we had to pay only a little extra premium. As we didn't have it, we incurred a total loss of around 4 lakhs in the total loss claim. So net, I lost about 4.75 lakhs, making this the costliest trip I have ever done. Lot of lessons learned, so I thought I should share it with the outdoor enthusiast so that you don't have to go through the same pain and agony. Thank you for your support and thank you for watching.
हाँ